Here's one of those three-wheeled vehicles with a body of a van. These look like two different size seeds, or at least in different stages of growth. Here insignia on these bricks may indicate either the brick company, which is most likely, or even an individual bricklayer. This interior wall and that runs along the outside, or the interior side, excuse me, of this newly done driveway or a road, I think is designed to shield the walk on that road from the view of decrepitation that often exists here, but also, as with this tall wall, to protect the people inside that complex from the view of those of us walking down there or up here on the wall. Here a view outside the walls to an area that looks like it was finished off in the past with nice light posts, but old and deteriorating, and a restoration of the moat. What we're seeing now is open to the public, but not explored by the public very often, and is probably just more of an actual town that is still very much in everyday operation. This looks like an old business complex, and it may be such, and down there may be the remnant of the listing of businesses that used to occupy it, assuming they still don't. This is probably a nursery for the town. I just want to pick up on the railing design and some other designs of brick on the buildings. And they're an older version in the background of the one in the foreground. Here the terminus of new construction, but you can see that it's intended to continue on and repair the rest of it, I assume. Probably with the same idea that if you put in an infrastructure of transportation, you will get economic expansion. Just so you can share my view, here the wall hooks around to the right, and then as you can see there at that corner, hooks around to the left. Make it an interesting walk. This old decorative entry and an old interior courtyard, which probably houses several families. And here from one of the nearby defensive towers, a view of a walkway, if not a bike path, as well as a park on the exterior of the town. Panning from that left-hand curve down the wall is ahead of me, we see somewhat the design of the wall, those protrusions to give good arrow shooting killing angles, and the various towers. There, a double tower down there. Here what looks like an old grinding wheel that might have been used upside down from the position we see it as a tabletop. Here a pile of very rough quality coal. All of this beside a very nicely maintained interior courtyard that may, in fact, who knows, it may be a business, it may be where people live. I think where people live you can see plants and also some peppers drying on the windowsill down there. Here a lovely view of courtyards, except for the tinfoiled one to the left. And as I walk along here, you can hear the sounds of people talking and carrying on their lives. I wonder what the holes at the corner of these aprons on the exterior of the wall base were for. Did they hold some kind of a column from which a structure was suspended? Here what must have been, and still is to some degree, a pretty backyard, may be abandoned. This building in very good condition with its iconography. Here is the view looking down, a curved wall, which is curious. Seems like it might make it easier to climb up, or at least put things next to, but still extremely difficult. And this looks like a very old remnant of a very old pounded earth wall that was then sheathed in those bricks. Here perhaps a schoolyard, just to fly and guess. Obviously so not a residence. Here's a two-story tower, perhaps at one of the 4 non-cardinal points between the cardinal points. Maybe a lookout tower, maybe second floor. Troops were stationed. Okay, looking north along the west wall, there's probably the west gate, and down there we can see the far northwest tower at that corner. Here a different configuration of moat, which was original, if either, I don't know. Interesting that this set of tables and chairs should be on this dais right next to the west gate. And it's curious why this hole is here, except that it provides the battlement, but that area there looks like it would have been a bridge at some time. Can't tell. Our structure went up here. Why 5 arcs there, or arches, and only one big one here? Interesting that there was no egress from the wall at the west gate. So whether there will be at the north gate is a good... Here looks like a pretty courtyard with some flowers, the residence perhaps to the left, although it could be all those buildings, and an old man down there just beyond that fireplace. This west side looks pretty much... Their lady is cleaning the doorway of her house with these pretty flowers. Even though it's old, it doesn't mean they don't maintain it to the a degree that gives them a sense of class, if you will. Nicely tiled roof with what looks like access to it. Or firecrackers. Here a large park to the west with an emerging trees to provide shade. Probably some Communist Party iconography. This is probably originally some kind of civic building, even a temple, and it may still be today. Don't know how much we can see down inside of the courtyard there, but well, somebody cleaning up. Some interesting roof sculptures. The kind of thing you see in Chile and those kind of places, or Peru rather, where the top of the chimney becomes a place for iconography. Okay, we're at another tower. Obviously not the most northwest corner tower, so maybe it's the northwest tower on the west wall. But you can see the tourists coming towards me. There have been no tourists between here and where I started down before. Just some of the strange noises you hear. It could be a vendor, or it could be, sounds Muslim, but it's not. Probably some kind of vendor. This is looking outside the wall, of course. See, I'm thinking these archways may well have been archways for the moat, which may be connected to a river for its source. Presumably a wall soldier. But what it may give us is an idea of the kind of clothing or armor that they wore. Okay, now I suspect we're looking at a relatively new, almost totally commercial area in this part of town. Not sure what's up ahead. This is the recycling center for this part of town, apparently. And they're loading up a truck of glass and breaking a few of the bottles that haven't been broken. Okay, now we're approaching the northwest corner tower, and then we'll go along the northwest wall as far as I can. Way down there you can see what I think may be a far tower. Interestingly, here are a whole swath of what look to be, and those I can tell looking at Chinese characters, different brick markings. So don't really know what this stands for. Northwest Tower, and these futons probably are of a relatively recent vintage of tear down the whole block and rebuild, but they look like they may be 20-30 years old.